All right, we are back. Season 1, episode 3, The Buys.
The buys.
The Buys. You already had an idea what this was about anyway, so.
Yeah, they've been alluding to the hand-to-hands and the buy bus. How they refer it?
Buy bus.
Yeah, so I assumed this was going to be an episode focused on them selling. But I still didn't know what to expect, though. So.
And the quote that we get is "The king stay the king," which alludes to another one of those scenes with D'Angelo that he has with the kids. But let's start at the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, at the low rises. It's D, right? D's there first, right?
Yep, you got D and Bodhi and Poot, and they're talking about, I guess, like violence and the way that you treat the customer.
And just why does a drug game have to be this way? Like, isn't there a better way?
Mm-hmm. And he kind of it's almost like, again, another one of those things that I think I realize every time I rewatch it, he's almost like reciting what McNulty said to him, the bodies. Right? We're about the bodies. That's what McNulty said to him last episode before they arrested him. He said, we don't care about a drug charge.
And I didn't even think of that, but he really did parrot a lot of that sentiment. It's like, why? He literally said, he was like, any other company or any other industry you can buy without getting killed. And then now these I didn't even realize he's kind of echoing that sentiment and then sending it down to his underlings, basically. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And Bodhi's not down with it. Bodhi's like, fuck it, right? A fiend.
Bodhi's the light-skinned dude, right?
Yeah.
Now that people's characters are starting to form, I'm starting to know names. And so Bodhi is definitely the opposition to whatever D's usually talking about. Like, whether it's like just in theory or if it's just literally he's the one he's arguing with. Like, Bodhi's always on the other end of D.
Yeah. And so then that's when we notice that, I guess, McNulty is up on the roof with Greg's, and they're taking pictures. And
we know this guy already. Yeah,
Bubbles is doing that.
Still in play,
right? Bubbles is still doing the hat gimmick.
Now, what did you think about Bodhi getting the red hat? Because I'm like, does he deserve one? Shouldn't he just get a black hat? Or am I thinking too much?
Yeah, it made me wonder, I guess, a little bit. Obviously, Bodhi is a main character, but at this point in the scheme of the organization, he probably is a lower ranked guy. However, I get the feeling he's more of D'Angelo's lieutenant.
Yeah, I could see that. Him and what's Michael B. Jordan's
Wallace.
name? Wallace. All right, I'm gonna get through all these names eventually.
But he's the one that's kind of always there. He's the one that's actually in the pit waiting for the re-up late at night. That's not really Wallace's thing. And so I think Wallace is maybe more of a hand-to-hand guy.
Yeah, I can see that.
So then we go into the police station, and that's where we have Daniels with Burrell, and we meet Stan Valchek, a major.
He's a major. That's what
this is. Yeah, this is where we find out that this is the connection that Przybylewski has in the police force, and why he's so powerful, or at least why no one's fired him.
Yeah,
that's his father-in-law. So his father-in-law is a top-ranking police officer, and they're basically pressuring Daniels Rawls is pressuring Daniels into basically taking this entire situation that happened last episode with Herc and Carver and Prez, where they shot up, or where they had the confrontation at the towers and hit the kid, that Daniels put this kind of on him and say that he's the one that sent them there, rather than it go on the report that they went all by themselves, because then they'd probably be fired.
And I believe there's also another new character who this is the first time I'm meeting. It's kind of the person Commissioner Rawls turns to when they're talking about the grand jury and how they should proceed with putting Prez back on the street. Who's this? Is he the top ranking guy in that room at that point?
I'm not even sure who we're talking about. Maybe
he's the other black guy, not the dude sitting, but the black guy who was standing with everyone.
I probably took it for granted. I have to go back and look at it.
Okay, but yeah, it was basically what is his name, Commissioner Burrell. But he kind of turns to him and he's like, "What do you think?" Whatever his name was. So it seems as if he's kind of up there.
Yeah. Was he bald?
Yeah. Balding or bald. Yeah.
Mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is commissioner?
Okay, so okay, that makes sense. Because so Burrell's a deputy commissioner, and he's the commissioner.
He's the deputy of operations. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm guessing on that, but I think so because I believe we see that guy in later seasons in like the mayor's office.
Okay.
And so I'm pretty sure that is his role as the commissioner, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
And so where were we? So these basically he's going to take the heat for sending the guys into the pit,
yep,
or into the towers, and in return, Valchek's going to owe Daniels kind of a favor. We hear this word a few times throughout the show. We already heard it last episode. Suction.
I got suction with you.
Mm-hmm. And so that's like another one of those police terms that the writer David Simon kind of throws in there pretty often as a cop slang, I guess. And so they all leave, and Burrell tells them like, "Hey, listen." He kind of reiterates to him, "Quick, buy bust, 3 weeks." I think he tells them, "Just get the felony arrests, get the buys, and that's it." So we go to the basement, and that's where we have McNulty and Greg's, and they're watching a press conference where Bunk is now with Rawls, and they're talking about the witness being murdered, the state's attorney or the state's witness being murdered, and Bunk is the one that says, "Oh, we are kind of looking into maybe this guy had some beef on the streets or prior, something totally unrelated to being a witness." And McNulty, of course, is sad.
Yeah, poor sap.
But that's where they're kind of talking about, like, they don't even know anything about this guy, about Avon Barksdale, this guy they're chasing. They've got the board. Have you started your board yet?
No, I don't have enough information yet. I don't think there's been presented enough information for me to have a legit board the way they do yet. But it's coming.
So they send out the two, I guess, humps, Polk and Mahone. They send them out to go try and get a picture at this apartment building that
with
Avon
some coaxing
that he apparently used to live at, and so they take off. Don't come back till the end of the day. And then we go to the chess scene. This is where everyone's just kind of sitting. Michael B. Jordan and Bodie are just sitting, and D'Angelo walks up, and he notices that they are playing checkers with chess pieces on a chessboard. And he just kind of starts trying to teach them. They don't want to learn. They don't want to learn how to play chess. Do you play chess?
Well, Wallace was down to learn. I don't play chess. No, I do not play chess. Wallace was like, "All right, I want to see it."
Yeah, Bodie didn't want to do it at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he starts breaking it down, but he breaks it down in more like street terms. And this is the best, I think, talk that D'Angelo gives. We've gotten the talk about the dollar bills, the McDonald's chicken nuggets, the president on the dollar bill, and violence in business. And now he's teaching them about chess in relation to organized crime. And the king is Avon Barksdale. The queen is Stringer Bell. The queen is the one that goes out and gets shit done.
And I thought it was interesting that they put those pieces together, and that Dee wasn't necessarily going there to kind of teach them that lesson, and that was just how they taught themselves.
And the stash is the rook. And they even say, like, "Oh, it doesn't, we don't move the stash." And we learn a little bit more about their business.
Stash house moving, yep. I love that.
Which comes into play later on, right? The stash house, they moved it 3 times already this week. And then the pawns. And that's when Bodie kind of catches on, like, there is no getting to the top. The object of the game is to capture the king. And if you as the pawn make it to the other side, then you're the queen. You don't get to be the king when you make it to the other side. You just get to serve at the top level under the king. And then he also puts it in perspective once Bodie gets kind of excited about that, like, "Oh, maybe I could be like a Stringer Bell." And he says, "No, but the pawns, they be out the game quick." And that's when Bodie says, great line, "Unless some smart-ass pawns." What do you think about the whole scene?
It was helpful for me to understand the flow of the organization because I didn't quite understand what Stringer's role was, and then how Avon. I didn't know how that relationship worked. I knew those two were clearly the top two at the organization, but I didn't know, other than it be calling the Barksdale crew, I didn't know anything more about that. So it was interesting to see it from their perspective and using the chess game as like where everybody sits. So,
yeah.
And then we see Stringer later on in the episode too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess next week though we see Sidnor, and it's kind of a weird introduction. What do you think of this whole? So he's freaking out because his recording gear is not up to par.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's crazy. Imagine him having to go out in the street with those to
like a reel-to-reel.
Yeah, it's a
1970s reel-to-reel recorder.
Like that was. I mean, I didn't get it at first. I'm like, what are they doing? And then the second watch, I'm like, this was supposed to be their surveillance. So like, I couldn't believe it. But no, I thought it was cool that they're really showing how the technology is so far behind that it's really impeding the work. So I thought that was interesting.
Now, I told you that this was Sidnor, but they don't even really like introduce him.
No, they never do. But I mean, you kind of get it because Daniel says, I need a black cop. And then he's the black cop that shows up in like the next scene. And then, so you kind of get it.
Okay. And then we get Rawls, who's now sitting with Detective Santangelo from Homicide, who's in the detail.
Santangelo, that's who that is? Okay.
Yeah, the white hair.
So he said something interesting. He said lizards. Is that like a cop slang for lesbian? I never heard lizards before.
What's that?
He referred to Kima as a lizard. He's like McNulty and that lizard.
I'm like, I forgot about that. Oh, was that last episode?
That was this episode.
Oh, I kind of forgot all about that.
When he's with Rawls, that's how he refers to Kima. He's like McNulty and that lizard.
Oh. I didn't even catch on to that. Yeah, it's
I didn't know if that was like a homophobic. I didn't know what the hell it meant. So
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, lizard, lesbian, lizard. I guess so.
Took the L's and
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I didn't even think about that. Wow, yeah. Did I miss? When is that scene with them with Bubs? Did that happen in this episode?
There's a scene with Bubs later on in this episode, but it's after Sidnor comes through with his new his undercover gear.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's around that time.
All right. You tell me when we get to it because I feel like I missed that whole thing in my notes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make sure I bring that up. But right now we're with Rawls and
Santangelo. Yeah. Okay. And so he's telling him like, hey, listen, I need you to be my eyes and ears. He's pissed that things are going to the paper and he knows nothing about it. So he's putting pressure on Santangelo basically now
keep an eye on things.
Yeah, to be a mole inside of the detail. And Santangelo doesn't even want to do it. He's saying like, I don't even want anything to do with this guy. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to work with him. I'm partnered with him, but I don't want to be. And so he says, you do this and you'll be back here in Homicide with a favor in your pocket.
There's another favor being exchanged.
Yeah. And so then we get back into the basement and Polk and Mahone come back and they're wasted. And the picture they've got is a white guy, a middle-aged white guy. And they leave because they've done their job for the day. And that's when they say, what do we know about this guy? And McNulty says, we know a couple things about him.
And then Kima starts listing off all the evidence that she has.
Everything from the previous files that they've looked at on him.
And the DEA gave him some stuff, yeah.
And the biggest thing that they have about him is that he used to fight in Golden Gloves, which sparks something in Lester Freeman, who just kind of leaves. Walks out.
And he specifically asked, like, where'd you hear that? And then he leaves. Yeah. So
what were you thinking?
Love that. I loved it because I know he was about to do something cool. He's the quiet guy, the guy they refer to as the kitchen mouse or whatever the fuck we refer to him as. So I'm like, all right, he's gonna go do something good. So I was fine. I was ready for his character to do something. So
and so immediately he goes out to this building. It's a great shot, the way they unveil the whole thing. But this is the first thing I noticed were the kids outside yelling blue tops.
Yeah.
And the kid stops them on the way up and asks him. And this is something that like I probably was happening in the last episode, but like drug names are huge in this show. The evolution of drug names, the differences in drug names. We hear later on Avon's doing red tops.
Yeah.
And Stringer later on in another scene will kind of give his perception on the whole, drug thing anyway. But
right.
This is on his way in, and he opens these doors, goes up these big, long steps, Freeman does, and catches his breath and then turns and pushes this door open. And it's this awesome push into like this gym, this boxing gym. Did you get it at that point?
Get that he was going to the gym?
Yeah.
No, I had no idea where he was going, but I loved just the cinematography of it. I thought he may have been going to just like do regular police work in a low rise or something, but I thought it was awesome. As soon as he opened the door and then the gym opened up, I was like, oh, cool. So
did you get it at that point though, what he's doing in the gym?
Oh yeah. Once I saw they were in the gym, I knew he was trying to find, like, I didn't know it was going to be a poster per se, but I knew he was investigating Avon's boxing career.
So it's a quick little scene, and he just talks to the trainer there, and we'll eventually come back with the goods. But McNulty and Greg's. So this is when they're talking, right? This is the thing with Bubs, right?
Not yet. This is where they go to the FBI guy to get us.
Oh, you're right.
The better quality audio. Yeah,
you're right. So this is kind of like the little wink to maybe a little foreshadowing here.
Yeah, for sure.
And so they're kind of talking to the FBI guy, say, hey, we need some lightweight gear. And McNulty's FBI buddy's like, oh, sure, I got you. So, just tell me who your supervisor is. And this is when McNulty says it's Lieutenant Daniels. And
kind of gives a look. Yeah, makes a face. He makes a face. And
makes a face.
Kima notices it too.
But he doesn't say anything about it. And it just kind of passes. And we find out, really, it's the last scene of the episode. We have to wait to find out what that is about. Right. So next we see that we meet Omar for the first time in the van.
And it's awesome the way they introduce him, because it starts off with, him observing everybody in the courtyard, and you think it's the FBI or you think it's the police authorities. And then you see it reveals that's Omar and his crew. So it's really... I love the way they introduced him in this episode.
Now, you already have known about Michael K. Williams and
from other shows,
and and the fact that he is Omar of some sort, but you don't know what Omar is, who he is in the show.
Okay. No, nothing. But I know this is his like claim to fame is this role. So
yeah. So he also has two other guys with him. They're taking notes. D'Angelo goes to the club, drops off some money.
Well, now this is where the scene that you were talking about happens. Right before we go to the club, it's where Kima, Bubs, and what's his name, McNulty, they're all talking, and then he finds out that Kima's a lesbian.
Okay,
and all that.
So he tells this whole story, and Bubs is talking about basically guessing everything that happened with McNulty's marriage. The fact that McNulty reveals that his ex-wife is trying to get back at him because he cheated on her, and he asked him, Bubs, how come your life's so hard? You got all this wisdom.
Right.
Another great line. And they're really, it's funny. I was thinking about it just in this watch, just how they all kind of seem to be friends.
Yeah. I mean, well, the good cops, at least. The good cops are kind of gelling.
But also Bubs, too. He's very humanized. He's hanging out in the police station. They're eating lunch together, telling jokes, swapping stories. It's a very domesticated lifestyle for Bubs there.
Yeah.
And then Kima reveals that she is a lesbian. And McNulty says, "Oh, figures. The only other female cop that was worth a damn was also a lesbian." Which I don't know, in today's day and age, maybe wouldn't be lines that would be.
I thought it was interesting how the story they were trying to tell about how Kima, as a female police officer, the only way she could keep men from harassing her was to basically announced that she dates women, but it didn't seem like it. I don't know. It almost seemed functional more than like, I'm more attracted to women than men. Am I reading too much into it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
it seemed like that pushed her over the edge almost. She's just like, I'd rather do this than have to deal with men or dogs, and like, cops or dogs. She said specifically. So I thought that was interesting.
I think it's a bad look on cops. She's saying that cops are, sexually harass women at work. So, given all the things that, come out now that people say about police, I think it would probably be something that probably in 2020 wouldn't be as looked upon as a favorite line as maybe went past back in 2005.
Mm. But yeah, it's another dynamic to her. Not that I necessarily needed more because I was already on board with Kima, but another dynamic, just the fact that her kind of telling us how she came up through the ranks.
As far as...
Well, she tells a little story about how she used to be scared and be in her patrol car by herself. But then eventually she found out that, you get beat up once and it's not the end of the world. And, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So this is when now we get D'Angelo dropping off the cash to Stringer at Orlando's in the club. Mm-hmm. And he walks into the back room, and the room is just tons of money. There's a guy counting it, and he hands it over to his stash over to Stringer. Stringer's really impressed by the amount of money that he's making.
Yeah. I was interested by that too. I guess it makes sense because he does seem to be running a tight ship. So, but cool.
And then I don't know. I feel like this is like a classic bad guy move when you're in a room full of money and the guy, the underling sees all the money and then you hand him, $80. You've got a room full of, you probably have like 6 figures worth of money sitting in there and he's looking at it all and you go, hey man, here's $80. There's a bonus. That's what Stringer tells him, that there's a bonus. Mm-hmm. You do something with that you wouldn't normally. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, wow, I don't know. It just feels a little manipulative. Well, very manipulative. And that's, I guess, what drug dealing and gangs and all that is in this case.
But I was waiting for D's reaction and he seemed very pleased.
Sadly. Yeah, I don't think D'Angelo's coming off very smart in this show.
But he has these moments of confliction with like everything that's going on and the violence. And then it just seemed like, I don't know. Again, I maybe read too much into character reactions, but I felt like that interaction with Stringer, I was expecting him to react one way, maybe like, I don't know, with some sort of, who are you to hand me this money kind of thing. And then he seemed very appreciative of it. So,
yeah, I think what you're describing is a reaction of someone that's street smart. And I think these last 3 episodes, I don't think D'Angelo is very street smart, nor does he seem to like the streets.
No, he definitely doesn't like it.
He doesn't, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't hold up very well in interrogation. He doesn't like the violence. Mm-hmm. And he shuts up about and takes the money after just asking, where does it all go? And Stringer just completely ignores him. Yeah, just ignores him.
And I thought that was a big heel move too. Just him. I think that's what you're referring to when you're talking about typical bad guy things. Because I feel like that's something where it's like you ask a direct question and they kind of look at you and move on.
Yeah. So then he ends up spending the money on Chardine. He goes downstairs and...
What's her name?
Chardine.
Okay.
Chardine. And he puts the entire... Again, what the fuck, dude? Not very smart. He puts the entire stack on the bar.
I'm like, did I see this properly? But then I rewatched him. I guess he sure did just take all of his bonus and spent it on something he normally wouldn't have, I guess. Somebody else's drink. So...
And I guess it works because, she... puts his hands on him and allows him to put her hands on her.
I don't know if it was the money or if it was the mention of his uncle, though.
Right. He basically tells her the entire, like, in 20 seconds, tells Chardine, like, the entire structure of the Barksdale crew.
I wouldn't go that far. He just was like, the money man and Orlando's just the front man.
Right. And then she says, you work with your uncle? Mm-hmm. And then she says, I'm his right-hand man. You know what I mean? Like, I think her just saying that, because she says, even the way when she says, where are you from? Mm-hmm. And then he goes, like, there's no way you can take that, I think, other than saying, like, I'm a gangster, I'm a drug dealer from the West Side. Yeah. And definitely. She immediately asked, you work with your uncle?
Mm-hmm. That's the first thing she asked. Yep.
So, I mean... She just, in every show, I'm always leery of new characters and characters that start small. And I'm always leery of, like, is that an undercover cop? Right? I just watched Ozark and I'm like that with, like, characters where I go, who's this guy? Is this an undercover cop? And so just with everyone, when someone is too giddy and someone gives up too much information, I'm just like, what are you doing? Everyone's going through these painful methods. The cops are trying to track. They're trying to just find a picture of his uncle, and he's just telling her exactly who he is.
Yeah, I thought it was dumb. It was pretty dumb.
So now we're back in the basement, and Freeman comes back with the poster. Everyone's like jaw drops. They're all shocked.
Yeah. And Cinder walks in with his bum outfit.
He's got his bum outfit. He shows off his latest in junkie wear.
Mm-hmm. Gucci slacks. And it was all expensive shit that was run down. So
yeah, it was all expensive stuff that was probably popping like 7 years ago. And it's dirty and worn. And he himself has not been taking care of his body and his hygiene. He's probably been quarantining a little bit. And so he hasn't showered. He hasn't shaved in days. And Bubbles kind of tells him, hey, you're okay, but you're missing some things. And the funniest of all is, and maybe the easiest, is that when you're walking around as a drug addict, you've got to have crushed vials in your sneakers. Mm-hmm. And he shows them that how he's got one or two in his own sneakers. And so this is going to be the team, though, of Bubs and Sidner doing the buys.
Yeah. So they hit two apiece. It seemed like they hit two drug dealers apiece.
Yeah, we get this really cool montage of the streets, and we see, I guess, Bodie, and I know Ronnie Moe is in there, and I don't think any other like face characters, but it's just kind of like I'm always trying to understand what's the geography of this area, and it's like it seems like they're just in a concrete square, going around in circles, buying drugs from like the same 5 people or 3 people.
Yeah.
But they go and they buy, 2 sets of drugs each. And they basically confirm what McNulty told them, that it wasn't going to work. They don't meet anyone important. They don't see the money go to anybody important. And they decide to pack it in for the day. They go back to the office. They do the whole "I told you so" with McNulty.
Let's not forget, we catch Omar spying on them too.
Right. Omar sees Bubs, and they go back to the office, and Daniels tells them that regardless, this is what we're going to have to do.
Right. So McNulty kind of protests, refuses.
Storms out.
Mm-hmm.
He then shows up at ASA Rhonda Pearlman's, the state's attorney that's handling the case for the detail. Mm-hmm. And he shows up there asking, how do you clone a pager? And this scene was just a really big information dump of just backstory of McNulty and Pearlman, and as well as like the future plans for McNulty of what he's trying to do with this case. Mm-hmm. What did you think of finding out that, well, we find out that McNulty had his affair with this girl, with the state's attorney.
Okay, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I didn't know if this was the new relationship or if I didn't realize this was the affair. But I guess it makes sense because of what she says. Like, so you were married and a date was in your apartment, and now you're single and the date is 9:00 at night with no announcement. So, so I thank you for confirming. I wasn't sure. That was actually one of my questions, was if that was the affair.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. Just McNulty seems to have like a circle of trust, or is building one at least, and her bunk, Kima. So I thought that was interesting. As far as the professional side goes, as a case, and then as soon as that sex scene was perfect. Just I need to talk to their acting coaches, how they synced their breathing so perfectly, because I've never seen it. Like sex scenes, they try to do that a lot, and it's never as perfect as I saw it there. Every breath was in sync. They were really having sex. I don't care what you say. That was that was in the scene. That was just real.
They were into it. Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of sex scenes in The Wire, but there's a few. You know, there's a good little amount of nudity and always a little bit of sex. A lot of it with McNulty, of course.
I would assume it would be maybe what's her name that we just met?
Pearlman.
No, the stripper.
Chardine.
Chardine, yeah.
Well, we did get to see her naked in the beginning, at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Is she your favorite so far?
No, not even close. Kima's my favorite, man.
Kima? All right.
Yeah.
So they're still hooking up. They have sex despite that they play this whole, mind game. They still have sex. She calls him an asshole when they're done. Mm-hmm. Now D'Angelo, they're back in the pit, and it's nighttime, and D'Angelo's hungry, so he says he's going to go get some food.
Yeah.
And
get some for
Bodhi.
For Bodhi.
And they're waiting for the re-up. He leaves. As soon as he leaves, Stinkum shows up with the re-up. And this is where we kind of see how it goes down. He goes into this apartment. He says, we say 10 minutes. But before that all gets done, you hear someone yell, "Hey, you got my back." And the door gets kicked in. Stinkum gets thrown in. He's been beat up. Bodhi's in there. The whole Barksdale crew is being held at shotgun point by Omar, who now is making his move after we've seen him watching. And he kicks in the door, and now he's taking the Barksdale stash.
This was tense. I don't know. It was Omar came in with a bang. Like, that's all I got. It literally, like, blew somebody's leg off. So
yeah. So he says, "Where's it at?" And guy won't tell him. So he blows his leg off. Not off, but sprays a shotgun. Yeah. And then has this little kid the kid looks like he's like 12.
I mean, the kid that got shot in the leg, he couldn't have been, 16, 17.
True,
so,
true. So the younger kid that tells him where it is.
What do you think about that? I mean, I knew he was gonna because he was young, but I thought they may have, like, punished him. I thought they may have punished him afterwards. Maybe it's still coming, though, so maybe you don't answer that.
And so they go and get the stash, and that is when the guy, his partner, says, "Omar, let's go." And big mistake.
So stupid.
Drops his name right there. Bodhi looks like, oh, okay, we have his name. And then Bodhi
showed. That's the first time Bodhi's shown some, like, usefulness as a soldier to me.
Mm-hmm. And he rolls out. Poot. As soon as he leaves, Poot pukes all over the place. But Bodhi kind of stands tall. And so is that when
D comes back?
Back, right? Sees the van. The van pulls off, and he misses all the excitement.
Which is so suspect, man. Whew, I feel bad for D. Like, granted, if he was there, I don't know how he would have handled the situation. I don't know what he would have done.
Yeah.
But it was just, I felt bad. It's like, yo, it looks so suspect that you're not here for any of this robbery. You walked away scot-free.
And clearly someone like Omar, who's been watching them, it's no accident that he showed up as soon as D'Angelo left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
he must know he's connected or something. Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a matter of, like, how many people it would take to overpower them, how many people are on lookout on the outside.
Because D's not necessarily a intimidating presence physically.
No, and we've seen that he doesn't handle having a gun very well either.
Right.
Or we've heard.
Yeah. So I'm curious why Omar. It must be just because he's the leader, and it's like, all right, well, a lot of leaders out. I don't know. But Omar is very strategic, at least. So.
And then we go back to the police station where the cops are gearing up to make the raid. The warrants are signed to do the busts. They've done the buys. Now they're going to do the bust on the pit. And McNulty is not dressed. It's very, like, gung-ho, right? They all got the vests. They're all ready to go here. Mm-hmm. And McNulty is not dressed. He is not going to go. Mm-hmm. Daniels is pissed. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time in watching it this time, thinking, like, this just, and I mentioned to you when we were done, like, it just felt like such a heightened, trying to think about it as, like, not having any idea where the storyline is going. Here's this detective in front of all these guys saying, "I'm not fucking going. I'm a cop, and I'm not going to do this raid. I'm sitting out." And he's going, "You better call in sick then." No, I'm just going to defy you and not go.
You know what? He tried to be so respectful about it. He's like, "Look, man, I'm not trying to do this to step on your toes, but I'm refusing to bury this case." So it's interesting because he's coming from a moral high ground stance, and Daniels is like, "Look, man, you're breaking my balls here. Like, you can't show me up in front of everybody."
But also, I don't know. I mean, I know it's not the military, but it's the law, and I'm just kind of under the impression that if you have a warrant to serve, you serve it. You don't not serve it. And
McNulty's thinking about the bigger picture, and he's like, this warrant is really going to give Barksdale, is going to get him away, going to help him. So,
I guess I just don't. I didn't think that free will or the bigger picture is allowed to be taken by police officers, or else you're fired.
Yeah, but what's McNulty's line from earlier? What's a cop got to do to get fired around here? So
he does, and Kima tells him, "You keep up with some of your shit, you just might find out." So he's not going, but Herc is back. He's technically not back, not off of medical, but he's got his head bandaged up. But he says he's coming, so they give him a vest, and he's going to go. Coincidentally, D'Angelo is there with Bodhi and Weebay. Do you recognize Weebay at all, by the way?
Yeah, I recognize Weebay. He's the one who's kind of berating D for everything going down, right?
But just in culture or anything, do you recognize him?
I recognize him. He's got one of those faces, but I couldn't tell you his real name.
All right. Well, just completely side note, we just did a whole thing about Belly. He's in Belly. He is D'Angelo's. He's one of D'Angelo's, or one of D'Angelo. He's one of DMX's buddies in Belly. The two guys there that have the fight.
Belly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Bodhi, I'm rewatching Sopranos. Bodhi is in second episode, season 1 of Sopranos. So these guys, yeah, this HBO, the Sopranos HBO connection with The Wires, HBO just kind of recycles a lot of the same actors. But so Weebay is yelling at D'Angelo, and D'Angelo's got kind of an answer for it. It's like, oh, well, I thought, and Weebay's, it's like a little child. I mean, again, another person that's sunning him. And no, thinking is what you should have been doing. And he makes a lot of point. He makes a really good point. You got all this money coming into your shop, and you're not even here to see that shit right.
To see it through, yeah.
And the dialogue is just, for me, is awesome.
What about it?
Just I don't know. I hate the word authentic to say, oh, they sound so authentic and street. But just the way that Weebay lays it out is like, nah, D, thinking's what you should have been doing. You got 20,000 coming into your shop, and you ain't even here to see that shit right. It's just the flair that Weebay delivers it, the words that he's saying. He could have said it any other way, but the words that were chosen just had flavor.
Okay.
It wasn't so, it was coded. What he said was kind of coded. You got 20,000 coming into your shop. He doesn't say exactly what was happening. He didn't say, you've got our team coming in with the re-up for your drugs and your crew, and you're not here to watch their back. That's not what he said. The flavor that he said it is so coded, and I don't know. It's not something you get in a lot of TV shows, I don't think.
And it seems like you that's something that really draws you in on both sides, with the law enforcement slang and with the drug dealers.
As a viewer, it makes me feel rewarded for, again, I hate the word, but authenticity. To feel like they are building a world. They're not creating a false sense of what they want it to be. They're creating a world, and as the writers, are adhering to it and keeping the characters in it, keeping the characters true to themselves.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And so literally as they are arguing about this, and Bodhi tells them, that's when Bodhi says, I heard one of them's name is Omar. And Weebay kind of stops. It's like, what? Yeah, that's the word. That's the name I heard. And he tells them they had a white van. And okay, as soon as they hear about the white van, that's when the cops hit. The raid starts, and from everywhere the cops come, and instantly they start busting down a door, and they tell Weebay, wrong door. They've already changed the stash
house,
which McNulty warned. You write a warrant for a door. That door is not going to be the one where the drugs are behind 3 days from now. And that's what it seems to have happened. They have come up completely empty. But in the midst of the raid and the arrests, they cuff all the crews. They cuff the crew, and they cuff Bodhi, who turns, and I think it's Mahone, right? I think that he hits.
Was that Bodhi? See, it happened so fast. I didn't realize that was Bodhi that they were beating up like that.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so they're serving the warrants. Bodhi gets arrested, and Mahone, the drunk cop from earlier, takes one right to the chin,
gets
drops
a cigarette
down.
While he's on the ground.
Yeah, his buddy Poke comes down and just gives him a cigarette, and Kima just does Jackie Joyner Kersey, just I'm gonna whoop his ass, pushes the guys out of the way so she can load up her boot and kick him in the ribs, and the cops just have a field day on Bodhi.
They're destroying him. Whew, that was,
what do you think about that?
I mean, I didn't know what provoked Bodhi. First of all, I didn't know that was Bodhi. I was just singing his praises about how he stepped up in the robbery, and now look at this. But I didn't know that was him, and I don't know what provoked him to hit the officer, but it was pretty stupid. And then, I mean, they were jumping the shit out of him. So either he's going to be in the hospital or something, or at least messed up for a little bit. So,
as a new viewer, when you see stuff like that, what's your opinion, from the character standpoint, from like the cops, right? We're watching the cops, and obviously we're supposed to like some of the cops, right? Because there's good cops and bad cops. So when you see Kima, who's your favorite character, beating the shit out of this kid, but again, Bodhi did something, I guess, to deserve it. But the hot topic of day and age, like, does someone deserve that? What's your opinion when you see Kima and all the other cops that we're supposed to like whooping this kid's ass?
I mean, I'm not ignorant to the fraternity, so I've seen the representation in other shows where if something like that, not that exact scenario, but cops got to stick together. So assaulting an officer like that, I wasn't surprised that they attacked him. I was more so surprised that Kima just jumped in. So, because I thought she was trying to prevent any more trouble with her unit, right? Her is on medical. Carver just got back, and Prez is in office duty and is never leaving. So I thought she was coming from that perspective where she didn't want any more issues with IA or whoever else or the grand jury. But it helped. It strengthened what I thought her character was, to see her not do that and not be rational and jump in on behalf of protecting an officer, because she said earlier she loves the job, and that's kind of, so it reinforced who I thought her character was. Even though I don't personally want to see any black man get beat up by a bunch of cops, but from a character standpoint, I get why she did it, and it made sense.
Well, so does it sour you at all on Kima? I guess
it can't, because it's her character. It makes sense. That's her fraternity. That's her people. So why would she do anything else? So it doesn't. If it was a real person in real life, yeah. But in the context of the show, she did the right thing, I think.
Okay. So that's pretty much the end of the episode, but we get the final scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And McNulty, while he's not at the raid, he's meeting up with his FBI buddy. Very cool little scene where we kind of, these guys are going to meet up throughout the show from time to time. And
that's cool. I'm glad he doesn't go away.
Yeah, the little meetup, the way that they do the window to window, and he even tells him, I could tell you haven't done patrol.
And I was like, that would be me if I were a cop. I would do it the wrong way too. So
he pulls up and he tells him, he says, I don't want to tell you with the girl there, but he just flat out tells him Daniels is dirty. They did an investigation on Daniels and his money and his assets, and he says he's got a few thousand, 100,000?
100,000.
Yeah, a few 100,000 more than any police officer, lieutenant should. And McNulty does not want to believe it.
What if he went to Vegas?
Right. Yeah. He's got him. It kind of gives him every opportunity to say, hey, man, like, probably not. I don't think so. And Fitz is like adamant, like, nope. We're pretty sure this guy's dirty. And we turned it in to the deputy ops. And the deputy ops
we'll take it from here.
Said, we'll take it from here. And they never heard another thing about it. And the deputy ops is Burrell.
Yeah. So it's obviously they dropped it at the end of the episode for a reason. It's another story thread that's going to have some implications on everything moving forward. So Daniels just seems like such a hard ass that for me not knowing anything, it's got to be something more to the story. He can't just be dirty. There's got to be something more to it. So,
well, that'll be the I guess more storyline that we start to follow up on, because we needed more storylines.
There's so many characters and so many stories already. It's really Game of Thrones, but in real life.
Yes, and that's something I was going to ask you, because we got Omar, and my thought was like, oh my god, another character. What did you think about?
I mean, I told you Omar was perfect. Just the way they set him up, the way they introduced him, and then his final scene, like everything about, and the scenes they left, like his underling saying his name in front of everybody, like that's gonna have consequences. They left you with so much that I want to see that they couldn't have introduced him in a better way. Like you kind of complained about how they introduced Sidendor. Like Omar was perfect.
Right, the complete opposite, right? But you're not overwhelmed by really, so it's 2 more characters. We also got Sidnor in this episode too, so it's 2 new characters that we got introduced to.
But no, I'm not overwhelmed.
3 when you count Valchek.
Yeah, Valchek. Yeah. I'm not overwhelmed, but I will say that it's interesting. I hate to compare Game of Thrones still, but it's like Bunk had one scene on a TV screen. You know what I mean? And that was it for him for the whole episode. Right. Stringer had one scene in the Count Stash House. We didn't say Avon at all this episode, you know? So it's like, just like Game of Thrones, your characters will go away for a while, then they'll come back, at least so far. I'm only 3 episodes in though. So yeah,
once we get back to Westeros, then we'll get more of the whole crew.
Right. So, but I'm not overwhelmed. I like it, and it's challenging, and it's the kind of TV I enjoy, where I can see the pieces forming slowly. So,
any overall thoughts on the episode? Questions about the episode? Anything you wanted to
no
talk
questions.
About,
just I'm just really intrigued by Omar and what his crew is planning. They stole the stash, so I know they have some money, and they got the re-up. So it seems like there's going to be, I don't know if they're going to sell a new color top out there, if they're going to try to supplant the blue tops, which actually, no, people have blue tops and they're looking for reds. So they might start selling red top. I'm just really interested by that. So that's kind of my takeaway.
That is something we didn't really talk about but that is the other thing that Stringer mentions in the episode, in the money scene, is that I alluded to earlier, as far as, you know, right now they're selling red tops, but he tells them, he says, you know, the new product comes in on the re-up, and we're just going to put that shit in a new gel cap. It's the same product as before. We're going to spike it with some shit. But basically, they're just stepping on it and repackaging it.
Not even stepping on it. It's just light. They don't even have anything to step on. Yeah.
And he doesn't care, because if you sell it, because if it's weak, they're going to buy twice as much. Right. And so between that and hearing Bodhi's take on violence, just, you know, a drug addict is just the lowest form of a person in their world, it feels like.
It is. I mean, that's your customer. And it's just so interesting, because I never thought about it, but Stringer put it perfectly. It's like, we do worse and we make more money. Like, it's just crazy.
So I don't remember what the next episode is. Do you? What the title was?
I had it in the top of my head too. Not the Buys is the one we just did. Can't remember now, but I did know it.
It's let's see, the target, the detail. Oh, the Buys, the pager.
Right, because McNulty in his favor. Yep. Cloning the pager. Yep. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I'm excited. Are you still? So, I guess as the show now, we are 3 episodes in. Yeah. You're fully in, right? You're fully invested on this.
Yeah, I told you this offline. Yeah, I had a dream about episode 2. So,
what was the dream?
I don't even remember. You know how your dreams don't make sense once you wake up, but it was in the world of The Wire. I just remember that it was set in that setting. So
it's you know, one difference with doing this with you, is that we're not binging this.
No.
And so it's something to watch this and to just kind of sit in that world and analyze that episode for a week. And then because just when I think about knowing where the show goes, and I think, wow, I can't even imagine how we get there. That seems so far away. But when I do it by myself, I could get there in 3 days. You know what I mean? So, but when you think about, you know, episode or season 3 and season 4 and characters that we're going to meet and things that we get introduced to, you just think, wow, there's so much more development to go. And so it's re-energizing my excitement for the show, watching it this way, the way I used to watch it.
You would binge it and go through it all.
Yeah, well, not this way. We used to watch it though, you know, weekly on HBO. 15 years ago, 10 years, you know, back when I was in college. So, this is fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. So next week it's about the pagers. And then I guess I'm just going to do random predictions because of where I am. So
yes, I would love to hear your predictions. Okay. How do you want to do this? Do you have them already written down?
No, I don't have it written down. I'm just thinking, we can do by character. Yeah. So all right, name a character and then I'll
oh, this is great.
I'll guess where the trajectory might be going.
Okay. What are you seeing with McNulty?
McNulty just keeps rubbing people the wrong way because he's so aggressive of a cop. So that's I know it's very vague, but I just think, yes, he's doing the right thing and he's trying to get Avon, but the way he's going about it is going to somehow backfire and let Avon get a W somehow. That's my prediction.
Okay. You've already kind of talked about Daniels a little bit as far as, what thinking that you kind of think that there's something else to the story. Mm-hmm. What about Herc and Carver?
Herc and Carver, they're not gonna see eye to eye. I think that incident with Prez changed Carver a little bit. It's gonna make him a little more responsible. And Herc, I don't know what his change is gonna be, but it's gonna put them on opposite ends of each other. I think they're like, one's gonna be more of a Prez type, and the other is gonna go away from Prez, I think.
And I don't think we mentioned it, but I think the official decision with Prez is that he's going to basically be like admin in the office. No police powers. So, and he's got to wait for the grand jury to come back before they decide what happens to his career. So what do you see happening with him?
It's so sad, but the grand jury is going to throw out the case for whatever reason, and he's going to get off, and then he's going to be back on the street. That's kind of my prediction. Okay. I don't know how soon that's going to happen, but I do see the grand jury not indicting him for police brutality or whatever. And thanks to Daniels as well, to him walking them through it.
Mm-hmm. And, okay, last one. What do you see for D'Angelo?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
D'Angelo, I don't know, man. I have no idea. There's so many obvious things. There's so many obvious traps for D'Angelo. Like, that girl could get him in trouble. The letter he wrote could get him in trouble. Like, there's so many things. There's so many loose threads with D'Angelo that I couldn't even predict what's going to happen with him. I just know he's going to do something dumb and it's going to piss off Avon and Stringer.
Okay. We'll skip Avon this week because
we haven't seen him.
Yeah, we haven't seen him, but and really not even that much with Stringer. I think it's a good list. I think it's a good list.
Those were the main people.
Yeah.
Unless you Kima, but I don't have any predictions for her. I'm just kind of
she was kind of I don't know. I feel like you have your feelings on Kima already, and so she doesn't have any storyline motivation, I guess, really.
Yeah, not right now. So
yeah. All right. So nice. We'll do episode 4 next.
Yeah, man. Can't wait.
Cool. See you then.
All right.